Anthony Corallo, known as Tony Ducks, was a powerful figure in the Lucchese crime family and the American Mafia.
Who was Tony Ducks Corallo, the mob boss who dogged every trial? Anthony Tony Ducks Corallo was an American mobster and boss of the Lucchese crime family in New York City. Corallo exercised tremendous control of trucking and construction unions in New York. Corallo was born in New York City on February 12, 1913 and grew up in the Italian neighborhood of East Harlem. Corallo was a quiet, unassuming man who enjoyed gardening, opera and pasta. Corallo was married and had a son and a daughter. In the 1920s, Corallo joined the 107th Street Gang in East Harlem. His first arrest in 1929 for grand larceny was at the age of 16. He was not convicted. By 1935, Corallo had become a member of the Gallardo crime family by the foreign of the Lucchese family. On the boss, Tommy Lucchese recruited Corallo to work with mobster Johnny Dio, the leader of the labor racketeering operations in the Manhattan Garment District. In 1941, Corallo was arrested after police found him in possession of narcotics valued at $150,000. He was later convicted of narcotics violations and sent to the city jail on Rikers Island for 6 months. In 1943, Corallo was appointed as capo regime of his own crew, an accomplishment for a man in his early 30s. He then moved his base operations from East Harlem to Queens. Corallo and Dio eventually controlled the 5 local chapters of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. 2 gangsters used the paper local to set up favorable deals with trucking companies and exploit the rank and file chapter members. Corallo and Dio also controlled local chapters of the Conduct Workers Union, the United Textile Worker Union. These labor racketeering activities generated millions of dollars for the Gallardo family. From 1941 to 1960, Corallo was arrested at least 12 times for various crimes. However, none of these cases even made it to trial. Lucchese was amazed at Corallo's ability to avoid or duck convictions. After one of these many dismissals, Lucchese must Tony Ducks again. From the onward, Corallo was known as Tony Ducks. In 1951, longtime boss Tommy Gallardo died of natural causes and Lucchese took over the family. On August 15, 1959, Corallo testified before the U.S. Senate Select Committee on Improper Activities in Labor and Management. The senators wanted Corallo to explain the theft of $17,000 from the Teamster Union Local 339 by using names of dead mob members. Like many other mobsters, Corallo refused to answer any questions. He pleaded the Fifth Amendment 120 times during his 2-hour interrogation. On December 7, 1961, Corallo was indicted on charges of trying to bribe New York Supreme Court Justice J. Vincent Keogh. Corallo on June 17, 1962, Corallo was convicted of bribery. On August 2, 1962, Corallo was sentenced to 2 years in state prison. On July 13, 1967, Lucchese died of a brain tumor. Corallo was Lucchese's choice to succeed him. However, on December 18, 1967, Corallo was indicted on charges of receiving a kickback payment. On June 19, 1968, Corallo was convicted in the Marcus bribery case. On July 26, 1968, Corallo was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison. With Corallo in prison, the commission designated Carmine Trasamonti as interim Lucchese boss. Some historians have speculated that Corallo became boss immediately upon his 1970 release from prison, and that Tramonti was only an acting or front boss for the next 3 years. On May 7, 1973, Tramonti was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. Corallo then became the indisputable boss of the Lucchese family. One of Corallo's first moves as boss was to take over the gravel distribution in various areas of New York, such as Long Island, and owning major gravel companies. In his territories of areas of influence, Corallo increased Lucchese crime family's influence in the construction industry, with the union involved. The garbage industry would be next on the list, with the help of Lucchese capo Paul Ferriero and his crew. Corallo would gain power at the John F. Kennedy International Airport. In the early 1980s, Corallo unwittingly provided the government with the evidence that would all end his career. In 1983, members of the New York State Organized Crime Task Force installed an electronic surveillance device inside the dashboard on a Villians Jaguar, while he and his wife were at a dinner dance. Agents then listened to many conversations between Corallo and Avellino and other mobsters. They drove around the city. From these recorded conversations, learned the commission internal structure, history and relations with other crime families. These conversations were shared with federal prosecutors and provided them with invaluable evidence against Corallo and other family bosses in the Mafia Commission trial. On February 25, 1985, Corallo and other mob leaders were indicted in the Mafia Commission trial. On November 19, 1986, Corallo and then other defendants were convicted of all racketeering charges. On January 13, 1987, Corallo was sentenced to 100 years in prison and fined $240,000. On August 23, 2000, Anthony Corallo died of natural causes at the Federal Medical Center for Prisoners in Springfield, Missouri.